Good evening and welcome to Gravitas. I'm Palki, Sharma, Upadhyay. Let's get started. Ethiopia has been at war for more than a year now. It is reaching a crescendo. The Prime Minister has entered the battlefield. He says that he will lead the troops. An Olympic gold medalist says he will join the fight. China and Iran are supporting the government of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmad. Western diplomats have allegedly been caught on tape plotting against him. What was a civil war in Ethiopia has turned into a geopolitical conflict. Ethiopia was seen as a stabilizing force in a strategically important region, the Horn of Africa, enjoying rapid economic growth. Now it has become the center of conflict. The war has reached the capital. The United Nations Security Council has discussed Ethiopia on multiple occasions. The Tigray conflict has made news for mass rapes and war crimes. Some countries like Russia have said that this is Ethiopia's internal matter. India refuses to see it as that, but also underlines the country's territorial integrity and the need for humanitarian aid. 400,000 people in Ethiopia are suffering a famine-like condition. The numbers will grow as the conflict intensifies. On Gravitas tonight, we will take you to ground zero, Addis Ababa. Also on the show, the growing debt in Pakistan is worrying the Prime Minister. He says we don't have money to run the country. Prime Minister Imran Khan has spelled out what the world has long known. 31 people die after a boat capsizes in the English Channel. The UK and France are blaming each other for the worst tragedy on this dangerous route. In Sweden, the country's first woman Prime Minister takes office and resigns after 7 hours. We'll tell you why. And anti-China protests have exploded in the Solomon Islands. Australia is sending troops. We have the latest. We begin as always with Gravitas Global Headlines.
3 white men have been convicted of murder by the jury in the U.S. state of Georgia for chasing and shooting a black man named Ahmaud Arbery. The fatal shooting had fueled mass protests against racial injustice across the country. At least 8 people killed and 17 others injured in Somalia's capital after Islamist militants launched a suicide attack on a UN security convoy. A primary school in Mogadishu was caught in the blast and several students were injured. Islamist group Al-Shabaab claimed responsibility for the blast. Experts in the UK have sounded the alarm over a new COVID-19 variant, which is believed to be the most mutated version of the virus yet. Reports suggest that the new variant, which could eventually be named Nu, has emerged in Botswana. 10 cases of the strain have been identified so far. For the first time on record, India now has more women than men in its population. Government data shows that there are 1,020 women for every 1,000 men in the country. Government data also shows a slowing birth rate in the world's second most populous nation. More than 1.5 million people have died due to COVID-19 in Europe since the start of the coronavirus pandemic, with many European nations implementing measures to curb the spread. Meanwhile, the EU's drug regulator has approved the use of Pfizer-BioNTech's COVID-19 vaccine for children between the ages of 5 and 11. The Indian Navy adds a new stealth submarine to its fold amid concerns of increased Chinese naval presence in the Indian Ocean. The Indian Navy said in a statement that the INS Vela is capable of offensive operations that span the entire spectrum of maritime warfare. Libya's election commission says that Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, the son of the former ruler of Libya, was ineligible to run in December's planned presidential election. The son of Muammar Gaddafi was one of 25 candidates that the commission disqualified pending an appeal process that will ultimately be decided by the judiciary. Hundreds of rafts operated by illegal miners gather in a gold rush on a major tributary of the Amazon. Environmentalists express shock as a flotilla of rafts moored together in lines across the Madeira River. The rush was triggered by rumors that someone found gold in the region. Manchester City have stormed into the last 16 of the Champions League after a 2-1 victory over Paris Saint-Germain. Goals from Raheem Sterling and Gabriel Jesus sealed a comeback win for the Premier League champions in Manchester and also confirmed a top spot in Group A. Despite the defeat, the star-studded Parisians also booked their place in the knockouts after RB Leipzig's victory over Club Brugge. Debutant Shreya's Ears, unbeaten 75 and half centuries from Shubman Gill and Ravindra Jadeja, carried India to a strong position at stumps on day one of the Kanpur Test against world champions New Zealand. India won the toss but slid to 145 for 4 in the post-lunch session, with pacer Kyle Jamieson picking up 3 wickets. Iyer and Jadeja then shot an unbroken 113-run stand for the 5th wicket before play was called off.
War is the epitome of failure for all involved. That's what Abiy Ahmad said when he received the Nobel Peace Prize. The year was 2019. 2 years on, the Ethiopian Prime Minister has failed to live up to his words. Today he joined the battlefield. Abiy Ahmad himself is leading his army to war, and these are the men that Abiy Ahmad is fighting. These are rebel soldiers. They're ready to clash with the forces of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmad. This is happening in Ethiopia, not Africa's biggest country, neither the most populous one, but home now to what is building up to be the world's worst conflict. And it's not just a military conflict anymore. This has become a battle to dictate the future of Ethiopia. Global powers have entered the picture. They're talking, discussing plans, picking sides and making bets on who they think will come out on top. Ethiopia started with a civil war. It ended up in the middle of a geopolitical battle, a battle between the West and the East. On Gravitas tonight, we will tell you how. And we'll begin with the latest from the battlefield. Fighting has not broken out yet, but Ethiopia is dangerously close to the brink. Rebel forces are knocking on the doors of Addis Ababa, the capital of the country. Who are these rebel forces? The Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, Tigray People's Liberation Front. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmad has been fighting these rebels for almost a year now. TPLF controls the Tigray region. It dominated the politics of Ethiopia for decades. Then Abiy Ahmad rose to power, and the tussle for power began. The Tigrayan forces opposed the policies of Ahmad. In turn, Ahmad tried to wipe them out. Not just from the politics of Ethiopia, he made moves to crush them completely, first by cutting their funding, the funding to their leadership, then with a military assault. Of course, they resisted, and that's how the conflict began. Tigrayan rebels pushed back Ethiopian troops, and for the longest time, this fighting continued in the Tigray region. Now it has reached Addis Ababa. The Tigrayans want to take the capital. A clash is imminent. Abiy Ahmad has decided he will lead the troops himself. Reports say he has left the Prime Minister's office and gone to the front lines. Ahmad's deputy, Demeke Mekonnen Hassan will run the country, while Abiy Ahmad will focus on winning the war, he says. Some other senior government officials have also joined the Prime Minister in the battlefield. Our correspondent on the ground, Coletta Wanjohi, sent us this report from Addis Ababa.
The Prime Minister said he went to the war front on Tuesday. We're yet to at least get some information from him or from his office about the progress he's making in the war front where he said he is. We're yet to get that. But on the other side, we've seen him motivating other people. And that's why you're seeing people like Haile Gabriel Selassie. We also had another famous athlete, Faisal Elisa, as well as other citizens saying that they will take up arms, or they will take up arms in different forms, because contributing to the war is not just about taking up the gun, but you can also take up arms financially by supporting maybe the military, by supporting giving morale here and there. So yes, this kind of contribution is coming in, and we've seen even the city administration saying that it has already got some citizens whom it said as of yesterday are ready to go to the war front, you know.
The stakes are high for the Nobel Peace Laureate. When Abiy Ahmed began this fight, he promised a swift and decisive end. 1 year has gone by. Forget about defeating the rebels. Ahmed is struggling to protect the capital. His government has now asked locals to join the fight with whatever weapons they have at home. And a few thousand citizens have indeed volunteered. Look at this. These are the locals of Addis Ababa. They decided to fight the rebels with orange vests and sticks. Their courage is commendable. But Abiy Ahmed will not win this war with sticks. The odds clearly are against him. The only saving grace is that he still enjoys some public support. Prominent names are willing to back the Prime Minister on the battlefield. Names like Haile Gabriel Selassie. He won 2 Olympic gold medals for Ethiopia in running. He is now joining the Ethiopian army to fight the Tigrayan rebels.
A sportsman is always an ambassador for peace. Now, when I'm saying I'm going to the front line, people could say, what? Wait a minute. They could say you have been a mediator and you're a sportsman. Sport is about peace and love. No. What would you do when the existence of a country is at stake? You just put down everything. Alas, nothing will bind you. I'm sorry.
With words like these, Abiy Ahmed is bound to get more public support and sympathy. How he's been able to keep this war going for a year. Unfortunately for him, though, he no longer enjoys the same popularity abroad. The West could be hatching a plot to bring him down. An investigative journalist has made this claim. He managed to access details about a secret meeting of Western diplomats. These are serving and former diplomats of the United States, the United Kingdom and the European Union, and they have long-standing connections to Ethiopia. They were meeting a representative from the TPLF, the Tigrayan rebels. Now, we have not been able to verify any of these claims independently, but some video statements of these diplomats have come out, and one of them hoped that the TPLF, that's the rebels, get quote-unquote military success very soon. I have a quote here from the alleged discussion, and this is an exchange between a former American diplomat and an official from the TPLF. This is what he says. Abiy is not listening. He's not listening at all right now. And how are you going to reach him? A person who's really in a corner, an African Union envoy, has not been extraordinarily helpful or very active. And so, are there any other opportunities that you see? Here's another quote, and this is from a French diplomat. This is what he says. Even if Abiy sticks to his guns, which unfortunately he seems to be doing, you either hope that people around him, either in the government or in the military, realize that this is going nowhere and might force him to, well, accept the cessation of hostilities or force him to step down. Now, these diplomats could just be making an honest assessment of the situation right now, but they clearly are no fans of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. And that does not mean that he's isolated. The Ethiopian PM is getting help from the rivals of the West, countries like China and Iran. Ethiopia has bought weapons from them. What kind of weapons, you ask? Multiple rocket launcher systems, missiles, drones, radars. The Chinese and the Iranians are providing Abiy Ahmed with advanced weapons. And Ahmad will not hesitate to use them because this is a fight that he began with the rebels for more political power. And this is a fight that he wants to win at any cost. He has already been accused of war crimes, abuse and genocide. He is an international pariah today, a Nobel Peace Laureate and an international pariah. The rebels are no different. Their fighters have raped and beaten women during the war. They too are guilty of war crimes. There is no good side in this war, unfortunately. And our world powers are taking sides. Their entry means the violence will only intensify, and that spells disaster for the people of Ethiopia. It's a country where 400,000 people are already facing famine-like conditions. When the fighting resumes, this will only get worse. Ethiopia is Africa's second most populous country with an average GDP growth of over 10% for over 2 decades. Among the highest in the world. Also one of the very few countries in Africa that were never colonized. Ethiopia was once seen as a stabilizing force in the strategic Horn of Africa. Today, it is the center of a geopolitical battle. Now, try to wrap your head around this. A country has a central bank, like most countries do, a bank that it legally and constitutionally owns. But the government cannot withdraw money from this bank, because this bank is now controlled by a global financial body. Where do you think this is happening? I know the picture gives you a clue. Yes, it is Pakistan. The International Monetary Fund has deprived Pakistan of financial sovereignty, meaning the IMF has decided that Pakistan cannot withdraw money from its own state bank, the State Bank of Pakistan. The government cannot take money. It sounds a bit harsh, but it's well deserved. And we'll tell you why. First, the story. Islamabad recently went to the IMF with a proposal, a request rather, to keep taking loans from the Central Bank of Pakistan. Islamabad said it would take loans worth 2% of its GDP. It needs this money to run the country for the next fiscal year. How did the IMF respond? With a big fat no. It rejected the request simply because Pakistan already has debts to pay. Let me show you some numbers. These are estimates of the State Bank of Pakistan. Its total external debt right now is a cosmic $116 billion. 11 billion. Out of these, it owes at least $7 billion to the IMF alone, $11 billion to Paris Club, 12 billion bonds to Eurobond and Sukuk, 17 billion to China, thanks to the CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, $33 billion to multilateral donors, and the remaining $42 billion to several other entities like the G20 and the OIC. This is Pakistan's external debt, $116 billion. This government is indebted to almost everyone who is willing to lend. And no, it cannot blame previous governments for the soaring debt. This is Imran Khan's doing, a lot of it. What does he have to say about it? Listen to this.
जो मुल्क की सस्टेनेबिलिटी है वो एट स्टेक है. हम ऐसे चल ही नहीं सकते आगे. अब एक कर्जे ले लिए इतने पिछले 2008 से और 2018 के बीच में 4 गुना ज्यादा पाकिस्तान का कर्जा बढ़ा है. तो हम इस विशियस साइकिल में फंसे हुए हैं. ये टूटता ही एक तरह है अगर हम हमारी टैक्स कलेक्शन इससे बहुत हम तेजी से बढ़ाएं.
He says Pakistan's debt soared 4 times between 2008 and 2018. In other words, he is not to blame, he says. It happened before he took office. Now, here's something that might help the Prime Minister understand the crisis he's leading. This graph. Look at the graph. In 2017, when Nawaz Sharif was in power, Pakistan's external debt stood at $86 billion. In 2018, when Imran Khan came to power, it rose to $93 billion. And this after the Prime Minister promised to lift Pakistan from the shackles of financial slavery, as he put it. This is how he did it. In 2019, the debt shot up further to $100 billion. In 2020, $110 billion. And in 2021, as of November, it stands at $116 billion. This is Imran Khan's contribution, $30 billion of debt in just 4 years. Can he escape the blame? He's running a government that survives on borrowed money. It keeps borrowing from one country to pay another. It keeps borrowing from one institution to pay another. It's a never-ending cycle. What the IMF has done now is pull the brakes on it. It has categorically told Islamabad that no profits from the central bank's coffers will be transferred to the Pakistan government. It cannot draw from the bank until it achieves a desired cover for external debt. Has Pakistan agreed? Well, it has, but not without drama. Reports in the Pakistani media say that the government protested strongly. It is said to have reminded the IMF that it is constitutional right to borrow money from the State Bank of Pakistan. Constitutional right is what Pakistan is citing. The IMF was clear such rights do not apply when you're neck deep in debt. So Islamabad had no choice but to give in. So what's it going to do now? Cost cutting. Pakistan plans to cut down its expenditure. It will raise taxes. People already suffering from soaring inflation will be taxed more. Income tax, sales tax, power tariffs, GST, regulatory duty. Pakistan is planning to increase all of these in order to pay back the IMF, which, by the way, posted something cryptic this evening. This picture of the sunset in Karachi, Pakistan's financial hub. IMF Pakistan's official handle posted this picture, a fitting metaphor, some would say, for the country. The sun is setting on Pakistan's economy. And now we want to talk about a tragedy that unfolded in the English Channel. A boat en route to the UK drowned. At least 31 people have died. This has been called the deadliest disaster ever in the narrow seaway. The boat was travelling from Dunkirk in France to the port of Dover in southeast England. It capsized halfway for reasons unknown. According to the French Interior Minister, it was carrying 33 people. 31 of them have died, including 5 women and 3 children. Bodies were discovered by a fishing boat on Wednesday afternoon. 2 other people have been rescued. Their condition has been described as critical. The one remaining person is unaccounted for. The UK and France launched a joint search operation. It was called off late Wednesday.
As far as we know, 33 people capsized off Dunkirk and Calais. As of now, 31 people died or were not resuscitated. And there are 2 survivors who are currently being treated and whose lives are also unfortunately in danger. Among these 31 dead, we know that there are 5 women and 1 little girl. For now, we don't have more information on the identities of these people.
So what happened to the boat? Did it drown due to a high tide or because it was overloaded? There is no clarity, but authorities suspect it was probably because the boat was, quote-unquote, extremely fragile. They say it was a dinghy of sorts, made up of inflatable material. Who did it belong to? Human traffickers. At least 5 of them have been arrested. They've been charged with manslaughter and will now be put on trial. And here's something that you should know. The English Channel is one of the world's busiest routes, also the most dangerous. The currents here are stronger than usual. Overloaded dinghies often barely stay afloat. They're at the mercy of waves. According to reports, there were at least 25 other boats that tried crossing the channel on the same day this tragedy unfolded. 25. 2 of them arrived on Thursday carrying 40 people. This is in addition to the 886 migrants that arrived to the UK shores last week, bundled together on rubber dinghies, freezing in the chilling temperatures. Overall, at least 25,000 migrants have made this dangerous journey this year across the English Channel on fragile boats. The figure is more than 3 times that of last year. Why has it risen? Why are a record number of migrants crossing the English Channel this year? They're apparently unhappy with the living conditions in France. Reports say they're made to sleep in fields and subjected to frequent police evictions. In fact, on the 16th of November, France dismantled a migrant camp in Dunkirk. At least 1,500 people were living there. Why did France dismantle the camp? In order to stop these people from crossing the English Channel. But human rights activists accused France of not rehabilitating them. They were supposed to be taken to a shelter. Most of them went missing. They're now being exploited by human traffickers and smugglers who have formed a syndicate of sorts. They promise migrants a better life in return for their belongings. These smugglers are the most agile criminals. They avoid direct contact with the migrants. They connect with them through online platforms and smuggle them through several intermediaries. The French government's inability to trace them down has triggered a backlash from the UK. Prime Minister Boris Johnson made an indirect attack on France, accusing it of wasting the aid the UK is sending to stop this smuggling.
What this shows is that the gangs who are sending people to sea in these dangerous craft will literally stop at nothing. But what I'm afraid it also shows is that the operation that's being conducted by our friends on the beaches, supported, as you know, with £54 million from the UK to help patrol the beaches, all the technical support that we've been giving, they haven't been enough. Our offer is to increase our support, but also to work together with our partners on the beaches concerned, on the landing, the launching grounds for these boats, and that's something I hope that will be acceptable now in view of what has happened, because there is no doubt at all that the gangs concerned, unless they are shown that their business model won't work, that they can't simply get people over the channel from France to the UK, they will continue to deceive people, to put people's lives at risk, and, as I say, to get away with murder.
The French president has responded. He has pinned the blame on the whole of Europe by categorically naming countries who he thought were not doing enough to stop migrants from crossing their borders. He said these countries must strengthen their partnership but also hold each other to account.
Il nous faut développer de manière beaucoup plus forte et responsabiliser nos partenaires.
We must strengthen our partnership, but also hold our partners to account. We need to strengthen cooperation with Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, but also the British and the European Commission. This decision has been taken, and there will be a series of meetings with the Interior Minister in the coming hours and days to better prevent arrivals on French soil from the southern routes as well as the northern and eastern routes, and to better involve the British in the prevention of those influxes by dismantling smuggler networks. We have dismantled tens of them in the past week, and I would like to congratulate our police and the national security units involved, but we need a stronger European cooperation on the matter.
Mais il nous faut une coopération européenne plus forte en la matière.
Now here's the thing, it's not going to save lives. Neither is it going to stop the migrants. So instead of debating who should bear responsibility, European nations need to work on a joint solution, decide who they want to hold accountable, the syndicates smuggling these migrants by exploiting their vulnerability, or the countries responsible for conflicts that have triggered this migration. And we can tell you it's a debate that's not going away in a hurry. Staying with Europe, another major development. Sweden got its first ever woman prime minister today, but only for 7 hours. And this is not a record. The 34th president of Mexico, Pedro Lascurain, served as the country's president for only 45 minutes. So 7 hours is not that bad. But why did Sweden's prime minister resign? Why did she step down? She's known as the bulldozer in her country. That's the reputation she has. She served as finance minister for 7 years. She has a no-nonsense attitude, apparently. Andersson, the prime minister, ex-prime minister, ticks all the right boxes. So why did she have to step down within 7 hours? Our next report has the answers.
Förslaget att utse Magdalena Andersson till statsminister.
She was chosen as Sweden's first female prime minister. But she did not survive even one day on the job. Magdalena Andersson had to resign just 7 hours after taking oath.
Jag har nu träffat talmannen och begärt att
I have now met with the speaker and left my resignation as prime minister, but I've also let him know that I'm still ready to become prime minister, but of a one-party government.
för en socialdemokratisk enpartiregering.
Why did Andersson resign? It was because of the budget proposals. Andersson had to deliver on day one. Her first task was to push her budget plans through Parliament. But she couldn't cobble up the numbers. The opposition parties united. They wrote their own budget proposals with politicians from the far right. The opposition had the majority. Their budget was passed. Andersson's coalition partners, the Greens, couldn't digest the defeat. They were outraged by the victory of Sweden's far-right politicians. So they pulled their support to Andersson.
We have searched government power to carry through Green politics. It is not the task for the Green Party to let through a budget negotiated by the Sweden Democrats. We have been clear on this point. We have our party members behind us in the standpoint that we cannot stay in a government that is forced to carry through politics that the Sweden Democrats has negated.
She is not a rookie in politics, by the way. She is one of the senior leaders of Sweden's Social Democratic Party. Before her very brief stint as Prime Minister, Andersson served as Sweden's finance minister for almost 7 years. She describes herself as a nice, hard-working woman who likes to be in charge. Her colleagues in Sweden's parliament hold the same view. They know her as a direct and blunt leader. Swedish public television recently profiled Andersson. They gave her a title, the Bulldozer. Unfortunately for Andersson, her straight shooting skills are now proving to be an impediment. In Swedish politics, consensus is the law of the land. Political parties in the country today are deeply divided. Those divisions are clearly visible in the makeup of the parliament. No party enjoys a majority, so any prime minister will have to work with other parties to push their legislative agenda. Andersson says she wants to return to the Prime Minister's office. She can. But she surviving it will be a struggle, because she'll be leading a fragile minority government. Sweden is the only Nordic country to never have had a woman serve as Prime Minister. That jinx was broken today. But as long as the country's parliament is fractured, any Prime Minister, woman or man, will remain an ineffective leader. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
The United Kingdom loves history because it's only in history that Britain is great. So we often find the country walking backwards. While the world progresses, Britain likes going back in time. Here's an example. In 2016, a lawmaker in Iceland nursed her baby while addressing the House. In 2017, Australian Senator Larissa Waters followed suit. In 2017, a Swedish MEP, member of European Parliament, also took her baby to work. In 2018, New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern took her infant to the United Nations General Assembly. Also in 2018, a 10-day-old baby accompanied his senator to the US Upper House. What year is it? It's 2021. In fact, we're almost in 2022. And just like I told you, the United Kingdom is once again walking backwards. This time, it's on workplace inclusivity. The British Parliament has banned babies from the House. What's the logic? There is none. Look at this letter. It was recently sent to a British MP. She was told her baby was no longer welcome in the House. And this is what it says. Dear Miss Creasy, we have been made aware that you were accompanied by your baby in Westminster Hall earlier today. I just want to make you aware that the recently published rules state that you should not take your seat in the chamber when accompanied by a child. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that this also applies to debates in Westminster Hall. So here's something I would like to draw Britain's attention to. The world is changing. The House of Commons is supposed to make laws that reflect the change. The House is supposed to ensure that Britain too changes with the times. The House of Commons is supposed to ensure that laws reflect the age we live in. And in this age, we have inclusive workplaces. This age calls for inclusive workplaces. Today, unlike in the Victorian age, Women are part of the workforce. Women play multiple roles. We are caregivers, we are also professionals, mothers, also employees and employers. What the British House of Commons is doing is normalising excluding mothers from workplaces. It is holding motherhood against a lawmaker, making it impossible for her to deliver as a member of Parliament. What kind of example is the Parliament setting for the rest of the UK to follow? And who comes up with such rules? It was reportedly updated in September, this rule, and by the looks of it, some female lawmakers were not even aware of the new rule, perhaps because they were never consulted. One lawmaker has written to the House seeking clarification. Another has called the rule absurd. What do the male colleagues have to say? Dominic Raab has said that he has, quote-unquote, a lot of sympathy for Creasy, the MP. But he adds that the decision is for the House authorities to make. And allow me to remind you that Dominic Raab is the Deputy Prime Minister. He surely could have come up with a better response. Reports say the House of Commons is now considering reviewing this rule, which is good. What's not is that this is not the first time a lawmaker has been barred from bringing her baby to the Parliament. It has happened before in other places too. In 2019, a Kenyan lawmaker was removed from the chamber because she walked in with a 5-month-old baby.
In the chamber, debating chamber of the National Assembly with a child in her hands. I, as a speaker today, determine the Honorable Suleka kindly withdraw immediately. Sergeant at Arms, order. The Honorable Atandi, you are out of order. Sergeant at Arms, in accordance with Standing Order 107. Order! Order, members! Order!
In Spain, when a parliamentarian nursed her baby in the House, some legislators protested. Some even called it unnecessary. This was in January 2016. It's been almost 6 years. A lot has changed in these years. Workplaces have become more flexible. Many have opened in-house creches to help mothers balance work and life. More employers have made it easier for women to balance their biological cycle with their career graph. But somehow the United Kingdom appears to be blind to these changes. How else do you explain reprimanding a lawmaker for bringing her baby to work? Like I said, while the world moves forward, the UK loves walking backwards. What's more, the Parliament is leading from the front. From the UK, let's turn to Germany, where Angela Merkel's 16-year-long tenure has come to an end. Replacing Merkel is a rather familiar face, Olaf Scholz, the former finance minister of Germany, and now the Chancellor-elect. He will be sworn in next month. Now, as the new leader of Europe's largest economy, what does he bring to the table? What are his views? What sort of a politician is he? How is he going to deal with the many challenges that Germany faces? Here's a report.
Meet Olaf Scholz, the man said to be Germany's next chancellor. A lifelong social democrat, Scholz has been a familiar face in German politics. He served under Angela Merkel for 2 decades, first as the mayor of Hamburg and more recently as the Minister of Finance. He will now head Europe's largest economy. The task before him is challenging, to say the least. First of all, he has to fill in some very big shoes, live up to the stature of Angela Merkel, Germany's second longest serving leader. The pressure is immense, more so under the current scenario. As soon as Scholz assumes office, he will have to deal with the raging pandemic, tensions at the Poland-Belarus border, troop mobilization at Ukraine's eastern border, a heavily confrontational China, and a less dependable United States. Olaf Scholz is taking office at a time when the situation is complex on multiple fronts. How does he plan to deal with it? His political history may have some answers. Born in Hamburg, Germany, Olaf Scholz always aspired to ethics. In fact, he joined his current party, the Social Democrats, when he was still in high school. He started as a youth leader in 1975 at the age of 17. went on to chair his party's youth wing in 1982, became a member of the party's Central Committee in 1985, and after 13 years, he got elected to the Bundestag in 1998. When he was first elected, he sat with the left wing of his party. Today, his critics say he may be leaning towards the right. But it's tough to tell where Scholz really stands. He has advocated for stricter controls at the EU borders and more stringent deportation laws. His election campaign is centered on respect for the working class. He has called for transatlantic unity on fighting climate change and confronting strategic competitors like Russia and China. In essence, Scholz is very much like his predecessor, a pragmatic politician with bipartisan support, someone who straddles both sides. This political flexibility may work in his favor. Few expect him to change the course that Germany is currently on. But we'll have to wait and watch if he lives up to the expectations. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Now tell me one thing. How many of you wish to look the way you do in your filtered selfies? You know, the glowy skin, perfect nose, high cheekbones. Social media tends to have that effect on us. It transports us to a fantasy world, makes us believe we can look like that airbrushed model. All we need is to get that nose, flawless skin, and model-like cheekbones. Enter plastic surgery. It promises to make that filter a reality. One procedure and you're picture perfect. Sounds wonderful. Does that mean we should all get surgeries and start living the fantasy? These surgeries are risky. They have their own set of complications. They're also mostly irreversible. There's no for regret here. And 5 years down the line, you cannot come back and say, you want to embrace the so-called flaws that you once had. But who thinks that far ahead during teenage? It's an age when a lot of us have major body image issues. We are on a constant lookout for quick fixes. Cosmetic surgeries offer us that fix. The change we think will make us more confident, better looking. In 2018, more than 220,000 teens in America opted for cosmetic surgery, 220,000. More than 162,000 of them opted for minimally invasive procedures. Nearly 65,000 teenagers went for a surgical procedure. The same year, India recorded a 30% increase in cosmetic surgery for children under 18. 30% increase. Reports say the most popular surgeries among teenagers are breast augmentations, liposuctions, which is basically removal, and rhinoplasties, which changes the shape of your nose. Now, I'm not making a case against plastic surgery. Why should I? Going under the knife is a matter of choice. The question I want to ask tonight is very different. When teenagers choose to go under the knife, do they make an informed choice? Do they weigh the pros and cons? Do they understand the consequences of the surgery? Are they mature enough to make these decisions? Does anyone ever tell them that their bodies will change till the age of 19 or 20, so the lip they hate so much at 13 may not even look like that by the time they're 20? Or that they could work out and lose weight instead of going under the knife? You can't expect the cosmetic industry to tell this to teens. After all, it has made some $50.67 billion by betting on people's insecurities. So who tells our adolescents to wait it out or embrace their natural selves? Influencers online are paid to sell cosmetic procedure. Advertisements glorify the plastic change. The industry pays for articles that promise that a tummy tuck is harmless or a breast augmentation will only make them more attractive as they enter college. The United Kingdom has found a solution. It has placed a ban on cosmetic surgery ads that target teenagers. Companies will no longer be able to sell surgery during television programs watched by teens or pay influencers to talk about the benefits of surgery. And this ban applies to all media, online, on radio, on TV, even newspapers. The ban comes to force next year. And it's honestly a welcome move. Cosmetic surgeries are already illegal for those under 18 in the UK. The country is now cracking down on the urge to go under the knife as soon as you turn 19. Or take a quick trip to a foreign clinic to get it done before you turn 19. So starting 2022 rather, next year, there won't be targeted ads selling facelift, nose reshaping, breast augmentation, teeth whitening, skin rejuvenation, Botox, chemical peels or dermal fillers and the likes. And why did we choose to talk about this ban tonight? Because it prevents companies from exploiting a teenager's vulnerabilities. It helps teenagers who go under the knife because of peer pressure or to escape body shaming or cyberbullying. In India, most teens who chose to undergo a cosmetic surgery cited reasons like bullying by peers or poor body image. Most of them said that they wanted to change the way they look before they start college or their career. And this feeling has grown during the pandemic. As we spend endless hours on video calls, it has become almost normal to stare at your screen and yourself on those screens. And we wish we could change a tad bit here or there. Like I said, nothing wrong with cosmetic surgery if you're convinced that's what you want. What the UK ban does, though, is give teenagers the time to grow up and then decide whether they really want that surgery. Britain has seen enough cases of teenagers growing up to regret their decision. Today, several countries have banned plastic surgery for minors. The list includes Germany, Italy, Taiwan, certain states of Australia, some cities of China. Do you think India, too, should follow suit? Write to us, tell us what you think. We'll wrap the show and leave you with Gravitas images. Thanks very much for watching.